Let's begin with something quiet. The kind of quiet that isn't absence but presence. The hush that follows a moment so full it leaves no room for words. That's where I'll start, with the soft give of the mattress beneath me and the unmistakable way there. Nearness filled the room, not invading, not overwhelming, but gently surrounding. Rayon's fingers traced the inside of my forearm, his touch feather-light like he was painting something forgotten onto my skin. But before we go deeper, do me a favor, press that like button and subscribe. It's simple, but it helps this channel more than you can imagine. Now let me take you back. Chapter 1. The day that didn't feel like one. It started on a Thursday, a plain Thursday, marked by skis that couldn't make up there. Mind clouds folding and unfolding like secrets being tucked behind sunlight. The kind of weather that carries with it a whisper. Today might be different. I had just stepped out of a long, soul-dulling meeting. One of those where everything important is said yet nothing meaningful. Gets heard, I felt unmed, not sad, not quite tired, just floating in a kind of emotional shallow. So I did what I always do. When I'm looking for depth, I walked, and I ended up on a narrow street I rarely noticed before it's cobbled, stones whispering history beneath my feet. There, like a secret tucked away just for me, was a small cafe weathered sign, wooden door. It looked like it had kept every story ever whispered in its corners. Inside, the air was warm and rich with the scent of roasted coffee beans and old wood. A quiet hum surrounded me. Not silence, but softness. The kind of place where time didn't chase you. I slipped into a window booth. The glass fogged slightly from the warmth within. He ordered a cappuccino and pulled out a journal I hadn't touched in nearly half a year. Chapter 2. Eyes that interrupted stillness. I don't know what made me look up. Perhaps a shift in the rhythm of the room, but there they were. Two men seated at the far end of the cafe like a contrast drawn. By the same hand, one had sharp features, eyes like ink, intense focused. He sat upright, aware of every breath around him. The other had a softness to his face, a relaxed posture, a warmth in his smile that made you believe in long summers and slow kisses. They didn't look related or even like close friends, but they fit somehow. And then his gaze found mine, the warm one. He didn't smile, not immediately. He simply looked like he'd seen something familiar, something worth noticing. My breath caught in my chest as if his glance had knocked something gently loose inside me. I looked back down at my journal, the pen trembling slightly in my hand, but the air had shifted, and a moment later, sodded my world. Chapter 3. The invitation footsteps, slow, deliberate, I glanced. Up in there, he was tall, composed, that gentle smile, curving his lips like he had all the time in the world. Mind if I sit here? He asked. His voice low, grounded, and calming, sounded like it was made for secrets. I could have said no, should have maybe, but something in my chest responded before my mouth could. I introduced himself. Rayan. We talked, but it didn't feel like talking. It was the kind of conversation where each word was a thread being pulled, unraveling the distance between us. Then his friend approached, the intense one. He stood beside us for a beat, then looked at Rayan. She seems interesting, he said. No charm, no games, just certainty. Ryan laughed and gestured to the seat beside him. Mind if we make it a party of 3? His name was Eli. He leaned in just slightly, only when the energy feels right. It should have felt strange, a bit too sudden, but it didn't. It felt inevitable, like the kind of path you don't realize you're already walking. Chapter 4. Silence and Storytelling. Time blurred. The cafe grew quieter, the afternoon fading into gold. We talked in stretches. We let silence sit with us like an old friend, I learned. Their smiles. Rayan's eyes crinkled. When he laughed, Eli's mouth curved only slightly, but when it did, It was devastating. Rayan asked if I wanted to join them on the rooftop lounge of the hotel across the street. Said the view was worth it. I paused barely. Then I followed. Across the street, our shadows merged in the amber light. In the elevator, we didn't speak, but the air was thick, not tense, not heavy, just full. The rooftop was almost empty. The city stretched around us, painted in soft oranges and deep blues. Music played, low, wordless, like a heartbeat wrapped in melody. We found a corner couch, thick cushions, sky above, lights blinking in the distance like secrets. Rayan sat on one side, Eli on the other. The nearness wasn't strategic, it was honest. At one point, Rayan's hand reached for mine. Not to hold it, but to trace the edge of my wrist slowly, like he was learning my pulse. A moment later, Eli let his fingers brush against my shoulder. Nothing urgent. Nothing expected, just there. And something inside me sighed open. Chapter 5. The unspoken consent. There are touches that ask for permission, and then there are touches that become permission, because they're so careful, so patient, so attuned. That night, every gesture was a question, every pause, an answer. They didn't crowd me. They made space. Ran leaned in voice just above the wind. You feel like a song. I know by heart. Eli's hand settled against, my back grounding me. And then silence. Not awkward, just full time folded itself. Into that rooftop, the lights of the city, watching quietly as we slipped into something deeper than flirtation. Their presence didn't demand, it invited, and I said yes in a dozen small ways, with my breath, with my eyes, with the lean of my shoulder toward warmth. Chapter 6. A room, a moment, an awakening. Their room was modest, but that night it felt infinite. We moved slowly like explorers, mapping unfamiliar, but somehow remembered terrain. No rush, no pressure. Every shift of fabric, every shared glance, was a new story waiting to be written. There were no loud moans, no dramatic declarations, just sighs, whispers, the kind of intimacy that reintroduces you to your own body. I felt color where there had been grayscale. I felt breath where there had been routine. Rayan ran fingers through my hair, like it was an act of reverence. Eli watched me like I was something he dreamed once and almost forgotten. And I melted. We didn't speak much because our bodies had become the language. Chapter 7. After low, we lay tangled, 3 bodies, 1 breath. Rayan whispered, "You okay?" I nodded. "More than okay." Eli rested his forehead against mine. "You feel like summer." And somehow that made me smile in the dark. There were hours where the world didn't exist, where I didn't think about who I had to be or who I'd been, just this shared laughter and whispers. Slow touches, and the feeling of being seen. When the light changed and the morning stretched across the sky, I felt no regret, just a quiet completeness. Chapter 8. The walk away. They walked me downstairs, each holding one of my hands. Rayan traced the back. He moved my knuckles. "Thank you for trusting us." Eli didn't speak. He just brushed my cheek with his thumb and offered a smile that said what words couldn't. And then I walked out into the waking city. No longer floating, no longer searching. I didn't look back. I didn't need to, because sometimes the unexpected reveals pieces of us that have waited too long to be felt. And in one strange, beautiful night with 2 strangers who became something more, I remembered what it meant to be vividly, breathlessly alive.